Have you ever experienced a traumatic trigger yourself or seen it in your training partner or student? They suddenly froze, lashed out aggressively, either physically or verbally, started crying or hyperventilating, and you did not know what to do? Chances are you felt powerless, ashamed, and insecure. If that's you, don't feel bad or ashamed. I felt like that too, and that is precisely what prompted me to inform myself so that next time I would confidently know what to do and how to do it. Developing a trauma-informed coaching practice allows you to handle 10 situations with grace, or even implement practices in your gym that help to avoid them altogether. Imagine how much stronger you will show up next time on the mats, for both yourself and others. Before we dive into this free mini course, let's pause a moment and take 3 deep, slow breaths. Let's refocus. If you wish, you can set an intention as well. What to anticipate? Today, you will learn about what trauma is, what trauma-informed coaching is and is not. And finally, if you want to be able to bring those experiencing a traumatic memory, flashback, or trigger back to safety, you're about to get my complete mental first aid ABC protocol. Since we don't have much time during this mini course, I'm going to show you a step-for-step blueprint that you can apply right away. What is trauma? In Pillar 1 of the Thrive Drive method, you will dive deep into the neurobiology of trauma and how martial arts can help develop new neural pathways that help override, if you will, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in the amygdala. In this mini course, we don't go quite so deep, but deep enough to understand the basics of trauma. It is important to understand our nervous system first and how it responds to a perceived threat. A good way of doing exactly that is with a simplistic hand model created by Dan Siegel called Flipping the Lid. My wrists play the role of reptilian brain or brain stem. It deals with heart rate, homeostasis, reproduction, and respiration. My thumb, the limbic systems. In this part, our survival instincts are stored like arousal, learning, emotion, and memory. My fingers signify our rational brain or neocortex, which is responsible for conscious thought and speech. Ideally, you want your rational brain to always hover over your limbic and reptilian systems to some extent, so that when a threat has been perceived, the rational brain still has a say in how we're going to deal with this potential threat. Why? Because the rational brain is responsible for conscious thought and speech and can discern whether you're truly in danger or not. When a major potential threat arises and the rational brain, the lid, is flipped off, the limbic brain and brainstem, they will take over, but you won't really have a say in what way. Your rational brain goes offline, and you often have no recollection of what happened once you return to the present. In other words, your rational brain goes then back online. When this happens on the martial arts mats, it means that the student in question cannot help it. The moment the rational brain goes offline, they often feel ashamed once they learn that they have lashed out in some sort of way. Please understand that it is not their fault and that this can happen to anyone. Remember, these responses to potential danger are designed to keep us safe, so there's nothing wrong with them. That said, depending on the situation, some responses may be more appropriate than others. Now, to explain what happens with trauma, I like to use a fox chasing a hare as a metaphor. So imagine you're in nature and you see a hare running for its life, tailed by a fox. Now, in this example, the hare manages to escape the fox and goes into its hole and finds safety. Once it feels safe, it starts shaking. It starts shaking and tapping, and it's its way to just let go of all the tension that the body accumulated because of this life-threatening experience. Because the hair shakes it off, it completes the circle and goes back to homeostasis. So, a threat was perceived, the hair saw the fox coming. The amygdala is like, okay, it's gonna be fight, flight, freeze, what's gonna be? The hair chose flight, so all the energy goes to its limbs so that it can run. It escapes, it goes back to safety, but then of course there's still this adrenaline in the body, so it shakes it off so that it can go back into rest and digest. Regarding training partners or students grappling with trauma, they usually could not finish this cycle and regain the state of homeostasis. Their nervous system thinks that the danger is still there and ongoing. For them to reach homeostasis, their parasympathetic nervous system needs to get activated, for which a person needs to feel safe. What's more, effective learning and optimal skill acquisition happens precisely in that state. Yes, you challenge the nervous system by stressing it, but never so much that the lid flips. As you can imagine, martial arts can feel threatening, especially sparring and close physical contact. So when a student with trauma doesn't feel safe, not only is it hard for them to learn effectively, but also sparring might trigger or even re-traumatize them.